having William by my side is a great source of comfort and reassurance too.
Prince William makes his final move, officially elevating Catherine to the position of supreme matriarch, holding the clan's true authority. From the ashes of the speech manuscript burned at Sandringham, a ruthless, bloodless coup has unfolded at the very heart of the British royal family, exposing the ultimate betrayal by the heads of the monarchy. Leaked insider sources confirm that Queen Camilla, consumed by jealousy, covertly sabotaged her daughter-in-law's devotion by throwing the sacred document into the fireplace, while King Charles chose a cowardly silence. Outraged by the injustice, William immediately wielded a dust-covered secret pact to force his father to turn his back on his wife, compelling Camilla to humiliatingly surrender the top-secret access keycard and endure a public exposure before millions of live global television lenses. Will a scheming woman like Camilla accept being left empty-handed, enduring loneliness, and kneeling in submission to the daughter-in-law she once dethroned? What dark secret does the newly transferred keycard conceal that could completely shatter Camilla's remaining shred of honor? The life and death battle for the lifeblood of the court will be unveiled right now. It all began on a freezing winter night 3 months ago at the Sandringham estate, where the family's deepest secrets were often hidden behind heavy velvet curtains. The air inside the palace was so suffocating that one could hear the crackling of the fire in the grand hall's fireplace. On an ancient oak table, a thick stack of cream-colored paper lay still under the dim yellow light. This was the Sandringham Speech Manuscript, an invaluable document containing the entire future direction of the clan, handwritten by Princess Kate over many sleepless nights. King Charles had placed his full trust in her, tasking her with reading this speech before all the royal elders the following morning. But in the shadows of the corridor, eyes filled with hatred and jealousy were watching that stack of papers. Queen Camilla could not accept the daughter-in-law being honored as a future leader just as her husband's reign had begun. To Camilla, Kate's brilliance was a death sentence to the hierarchy of privilege that she had sacrificed her life's honor to achieve. Envy flared up like a poison, burning away the last shred of sanity in the woman who led the inner court. She stood frozen behind the gold-plated door, watching Kate carefully smooth out every corner of the pages before leaving the room. Every elegant gesture, every gentle smile from Kate felt like a thorn piercing Camilla's eyes, reminding her of a harsh truth: the public's heart belonged to the young princess, while she would forever be a doubted shadow standing next to the throne. Taking advantage of the moment Kate left the room to check on her children next door, Camilla quietly stepped out of the shadows. Her hands, heavily adorned with jade rings, trembled with a malicious pleasure. Without a moment's hesitation, Camilla walked straight to the table, using her 5 gaunt fingers to snatch the Sandringham Speech Manuscript. She stared at the neat lines of text that showcased Kate's devotion to the nation, and then let out a cold smile. Every word in the manuscript, praising the spirit of responsibility, sacrifice, and duty to the family, felt like a direct slap to Camilla's selfish lifestyle, which always put personal and factional interests above all else. She would not allow this speech to be heard. She could not let the elders see a perfect Kate, a successor more worthy than anyone else in this house. She took slow steps toward the large, roaring fireplace. Without hesitation, Camilla threw the entire stack of manuscripts directly into the heart of the flames. The precious parchment pages were quickly swallowed by the fire, curling up and turning into blackened pieces of charcoal, taking with them all of Kate's hard work and dedication. Camilla stood there, the firelight reflecting in her sharp, cold eyes, watching with deep satisfaction as the symbol of her daughter-in-law's honor was completely destroyed. Ashes floated in the dim space, clinging to the velvet carpet and even the queen's silk robe. But she didn't care. The only thing that excited Camilla now was the sensation of absolute power in pushing someone else into the abyss with a mere flick of her wrist. The next morning, as the important ceremony was about to begin, Kate discovered the document's disappearance with utter shock. The strategic speech was abruptly cancelled right before each hour, leaving the elders bewildered. Camilla immediately appeared with an air of superiority, unilaterally announcing the cancellation of Kate's status as representative, blaming her lack of prudence in order to tarnish her daughter-in-law's reputation in front of everyone. Camilla loudly reproached Kate before a crowd of servants and royal members, calling the incident proof that Kate was not mature enough to shoulder the great responsibilities of the clan. Every word from Camilla felt like a needle piercing straight into the self-esteem of a woman who always lived for duty like Kate. More painful than anything was King Charles's attitude. Facing the chaos of the inner court and Kate's suppressed tears, the king noticed a bit of ash lingering on Camilla's brooch. He knew exactly who the culprit was. But instead of demanding justice, Charles chose to turn his face away, silently walking into his private room to avoid humiliating Camilla. That cowardly compromise by the father became a deep knife wound to Kate's pride, turning her devotion into a farce under the feet of her wicked stepmother. The king did not want a confrontation to break out and shake the false image of peace of his reign. He accepted sacrificing his daughter-in-law's honor in exchange for a selfish peace beside his scheming wife. From a hidden corner of the banquet hall, Prince William witnessed the entire scene of his wife being humiliated. His eyes were bloodshot, his fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He looked at Camilla laughing and talking triumphantly, then looked at his weak-willed father. William understood that this silence marked the point of no return, and he would have to personally reclaim his wife's honor through the most brutal plan. The fury in the eldest son's heart was directed not only at Camilla, but was also a profound disappointment toward his father, the man who was supposed to be the scales of justice, but chose to bow before evil. William turned and walked away, his tall figure gradually fading into the deep corridor, carrying a decision that would completely change the destiny of the entire inner court. Following the incident at Sandringham, a Cold War atmosphere enveloped all the royal palaces. Camilla believed she had gained absolute control over the situation, beginning to blatantly isolate Kate from all coordination of inner court activities. At formal dinners or internal events, Camilla always found ways to arrange for Kate to sit in obscured positions, preventing her from accessing important guests. She even covertly ordered trusted servants not to report inner court matters to Kate's office. Camilla wanted to turn the Princess of Wales into a walking vase, a faded shadow with no voice under her reign. But she had no idea that behind William's terrifying silence, a hunt for a counterattack weapon was being conducted in absolute secrecy. William did not choose to argue with words. He acted like a predatory detective, scouring the darkest corners of family history. He knew that every rule, every law of the ancestors contained loopholes or forgotten clauses, and that was the key to breaking the shackles Camilla was imposing on his wife. William confined himself to his private study at Kensington Palace, flipping through old clan records, refusing any unnecessary public appearances to focus his entire mind on this life and death battle.
Late one night, when the entirety of Windsor Castle had fallen asleep, William quietly used a family heirloom key to open the door, leading down to the clan's most intimate archives vault. This place contained top-secret documents that were never allowed to see the light of day. The space beneath the cellar was freezing cold, thick, with the smell of old paper and time. Holding a small flashlight, William scanned the dust-covered wooden shelves. He wasn't looking for gold or jewels. He was looking for supreme power in black and white that his father had signed in the past, something that could strip Camilla of all her weapons in a single heartbeat.
After hours of searching, William's fingers stopped at a fine dust-covered copper tube nestled deep in a hidden corner. Inside the copper tube was the clan's secret pact, a special document signed years ago by King Charles himself during the intergenerational transfer of clan power. The crucial point of this secret pact was a hidden governance clause that clearly stated the power of internal clan leadership was entirely separate from the king's supreme rule. This meant that if the successor could prove the head of the inner court lacked moral standing, They had the right to strip away that managerial power, without the king being able to intervene with supreme decrees. William gripped the clan's secret pact tightly in his hand, his eyes flashing with the spark of vengeance. This was the ultimate weapon, the noose that would tighten around Camilla's neck. Camilla's stupidity lay in believing that King Charles's silence was an all-powerful shield protecting her, forgetting that Charles was also bound by the commitments he had signed with the clan before ascending the throne. William gently brushed the layer of dust off the copper tube, feeling the weight of justice resting squarely in his hand. He knew Camilla's time was ticking down,
But he needed a second piece of evidence to activate the secret pact proof of Kate's trampled devotion. William returned to his study at Windsor, where Kate sat waiting in silence under the dim candlelight. From a small safe hidden behind an antique portrait, he pulled out another stack of parchment. It was the only duplicate copy of the Sandringham Speech Manuscript that Kate had carefully saved before Camilla burned it. Every stroke of the pen, every message prioritizing duty over rank remained intact on the page, in stark contrast to the ashes in the Sandringham fireplace. These two objects, the clan's secret pact and the duplicate of the speech manuscript, were the perfect trap William had prepared for his father and stepmother. He didn't need cumbersome reporting steps or outside intervention. He would use the ancestors' own laws to force Charles to make a choice, either restore justice to Kate or watch the entire inner court governance system freeze. William looked at Kate, giving a slight nod as a firm promise that her days of endurance were drawing to a close. Meanwhile, on the other side of the palace, Camilla remained completely oblivious in her triumph. She began planning to seize the top-secret access keycard that managed all inner court assets from the head stewards, believing no one could stand in her way. Camilla walked through the grand halls with a majestic posture, smugly thinking she was the unchallenged, solitary queen. She had no idea that her every move was already in the crosshairs of her ruthless stepson, who was counting down the hours to execute the decisive strike, an attack that would strip away all the false glory she had painstakingly built. A week later, William's opportunity arrived when King Charles had a short stay at Windsor Castle without Camilla. The Queen was busy attending a private charity gala for her faction in London, leaving the king alone in the ancient castle. This was the perfect moment for a direct raid. Without a sound, without a single attendant following, William took firm steps toward the king's private study, where the family's most confidential decisions were usually made in silence. As he stepped through the heavy oak door, William immediately turned around, inserted the key into the lock, and turned it firmly. The sharp click of the bolt engaging echoed dryly in the quiet room. King Charles, who was sitting at his desk under a green lampshade, looked up with a start. A flicker of shock crossed the aging king's face, quickly shifting to anxiety upon seeing the ice-cold expression on his eldest son's face. He instantly recognized this demeanor in William. It was identical to the late Queen's resolve whenever a major crisis threatened the family's survival. William walked up to the desk, completely omitting the customary formal bow. This act was a deliberate breach of protocol, demonstrating that he did not stand here as a subject, but as the executor of the clan's justice. Reaching into his coat, he pulled out the copy of the Sandringham Speech Manuscript and slammed it down onto the wooden desk, right in front of his father. The loud slap of the paper against the desk felt like a bucket of cold water poured directly over King Charles's 3 months of evasion, causing the fountain pens in the tray to tremble slightly. "Look at this, father!" William's voice dropped, carrying a suffocating pressure, each word delivered slowly, yet sharp as a razor. "This is loyalty. This is what Kate wrote to protect the survival of this family. And you let Camilla throw it into the fire. You stood by and watched a woman who sacrificed her whole life, her family's entire peace for this bloodline, be humiliated by a selfish person." King Charles stared at the pages, his hands trembling slightly as they brushed over the lines showcasing Kate's devotion. He tried to avoid his son's gaze, intending to stand up and walk toward the window to end the conversation. But William was one step ahead. The Prince of Wales blocked the path, pulling the clan's secret pact from the dusty copper tube and spreading it wide open right next to the speech manuscript, completely covering all the other documents on the king's desk.
You signed this acknowledging that the governance of the internal clan belongs to the most morally worthy person. William set his gaze locking onto his father's changing expression. Your silence at Sandringham stripped away your power to protect this hierarchy. Camilla has severely breached the clan's code of ethics by destroying the family's strategic document. Today, I am not here to beg, but to reclaim what my wife deserves, according to exactly what you committed to.
The room fell into a chilling silence, filled only with King Charles's heavy, exhaled breaths. William's eyes were like two burning torches, incinerating the king's final evasions, leaving him no escape. King Charles looked at the secret pact with his faded black ink signature from years past, and then at the manuscript containing Kate's noble message. William's resolve, coldness, and strategic brilliance made the king realize that his son was no longer a child who would listen to vague arrangements. He was ready to overturn all injustice in this house to protect his woman.
Faced with the terrifying pressure from William, all of King Charles's resistance collapsed entirely. The king slumped into his chair, his aging face etched with deep bitterness. He confessed his belated regret for choosing a complicit silence with Camilla at Sandringham, abandoning Kate's honor to be brutally trampled just to buy his own selfish peace.
William remained unmoved by his father's confession. Decisively, he pushed the new order of precedence decree along with a gold-barreled fountain pen toward the king. This decree officially placed Catherine's name above Camilla's in all clan matters, stripping the reigning queen of all actual executive coordination power over the inner court. With a heavy sigh, King Charles took the pen. His aging, trembling fingers signed the approval, accepting to let the future guide the present. Each stroke of black ink dug deep into the parchment page like a full stop to Camilla's tyranny in the palace shadows.
William immediately retrieved the decree before the ink could even dry. He carefully tucked it into his breast pocket, vengeance clear in his eyes. The overthrow took place cleanly in silence. The fatal blow was ready to be delivered directly to the culprit. Queen Camilla's private chamber at Buckingham Palace was drowned in a suffocating silence. On the vanity table, made of rare mother-of-pearl inlaid wood, the new order of precedence decree lay isolated under the harsh light of the mirror bulbs. The sharp, thin lines of King Charles's handwritten signature in black ink felt like knife slashes, cutting off the final illusions of power harbored by the woman who had spent her entire life climbing to the peak of the inner court. Camilla's hands, heavily adorned with large diamond rings, trembled violently. Her gaunt, wrinkled fingers deliberately pressed hard against her husband's approval signature to check if it was a deception. But the dry, cold ink confirmed a brutal truth. Charles, the man she once thought she could manipulate for life, had betrayed her to stand with his eldest son. Before her sheer panic could even subside, the locked chamber door suddenly swung open without any announcement from the attendants. Camilla spun around with a start, her breath catching in her throat as she saw the tall, slender figure of Princess Kate step inside. Kate wore a deep navy blue dress, her curled hair cascading over her shoulders. Her face bore no trace of anger or triumph. The serenity and stillness of the royal daughter-in-law at this moment, like a waveless lake, carried a terrifying sense of intimidation, completely contrasting with the wild fury consuming the reigning queen's soul. Camilla bolted up her vanity chair, pushed back. She tried to regain her superior demeanor, her sharp eyes bloodshot as she stared directly at Kate, her teeth clenched to stop her voice from trembling before her enemy. She could not accept that a woman from an ordinary background, someone she once considered a pawn to command and dethrone, could now willfully enter her private space with the posture of a hunter.
Do you think you have victory secured in your hands? Catherine, Camilla hissed through her teeth, her voice carrying the ultimate hatred of someone seeing her small kingdom collapse. You are just a latecomer, someone inheriting the spotlight from public pity. Do not forget that I am the official queen, the head of this inner court, the only woman with supreme power standing beside the king.
Kate did not reply immediately. She slowly approached the vanity table, her eyes focusing not on Camilla's expensive jewelry or luxury perfume bottles, but on a single target, the red velvet box in the corner of the table. Inside that box, hidden under a gold-plated lock, was the top-secret access keycard.
This small piece of hard plastic was the key that unlocked the entire economic lifeblood, the safes storing family heirlooms, and the most confidential coordination documents of the inner court, which Camilla had seized long ago to use as a protective card for her faction.
Mrs. Camilla, your power game at Sandringham officially ended the moment the fire in the fireplace died out. Kate's voice echoed evenly, calm yet steel-like, resembling an irreversible sentence. The king's decree has taken clear effect. From this moment on, my name sits above yours in all family matters. I am the sole director of this inner court, not you. Hand over the keycard before things spin beyond your control.
Kate's words were a heavy blow to the last shred of pride left in Camilla. The scheming woman suddenly collapsed by the table, all her usual aggression and sharp wit completely vanishing, exposing the pathetic true face of an outcast. Belated tears began to stream down her thickly caked makeup as Camilla wept in utter agonizing humiliation. She no longer tried to threaten or use authority to suppress Kate, but began to express the absolute terror that had been gnawing at her soul for the past 3 months. The fear of having her legacy erased, of being forgotten forever, and sidelined when King Charles's reign ended. She knew that when Kate stepped into power, her faction would be wiped clean, and she would be reduced to a nameless figure in royal history.
Looking at the powerful stepmother trembling and weeping pathetically before her, Kate did not lift a finger to humiliate or utter insults to avenge the Sandringham incident. She stood in silence, her eyes containing nobility and a grand devotion to the nation. She extended her slender hand forward, waiting patiently. In her deepest humiliation, Camilla understood she had no way out now that William and Charles had allied. The Queen's ring-adorned hands slowly opened the red velvet box, tremblingly picked up the top-secret access keycard, and personally placed it into Kate's palm. The ultimate piece of evidence had officially changed hands, marking the complete downfall of the villain who once ruled the shadows of the inner court. An official message from the palace was widely broadcast across international media channels, confirming Catherine as the central female leader of the royal family, with supreme executive authority over internal clan affairs. To cement this new order and completely squelch any public rumors of a rift, a public appearance event was arranged right on the balcony of Buckingham Palace. This was not just a routine ceremonial presentation, but a public battlefield, where the victor and the defeated would have to expose their true positions before tens of thousands of citizens gathered below, and millions of live global television lenses.
Behind the large glass doors leading to the balcony, the atmosphere was tense enough to freeze. Camilla stood tucked away behind the velvet curtain, her face ash-gray under thick powder, her eyes staring blankly at the vast courtyard filled with flags and flowers below. The tiara on her head, once a symbol of ultimate pride, now seemed as heavy as a block of stone, weighing down shoulders that trembled with rage. She deliberately moved closer to King Charles, intending to intertwine her arm with his to create an image of a powerful partnership, as always. But William took a step forward, using his tall frame to deftly block the path. His cold gaze served as a warning that made Camilla back down.
The balcony doors swung open and brilliant sunlight flooded the grand hall. King Charles stepped out first, followed by Prince William and Princess Kate. Camilla was forced to walk the distance between her and the three of them, so vast that an obvious isolation could be seen even before they stepped out into the light. As soon as the family neared the balcony railing, a moment representing the most valuable political symbolism in contemporary royal history unfolded before millions of eyes. King Charles, instead of standing in the center with his wife as usual, proactively stopped and took a decisive step backward. He extended his hand toward Kate in a gesture of deep respect, officially giving way for his daughter-in-law to advance to the most prominent position in the exact middle of the palace balcony. This unspoken action by the king carried a devastating message. He had publicly handed the beacon of moral and inner court leadership over to Catherine, turning Camilla into an outsider on her own prestigious balcony. William stood beside them, his eyes flashing with absolute relief and pride as he watched his wife stand in the position she deserved after so much sacrifice and injustice. Kate stepped forward, her demeanor exuding the grace and resilience of a true matriarch. In the palace courtyard, the crowd of citizens exploded into resounding cheers. Flags bearing the Welsh emblem fluttered in the wind, and chants of "Catherine" echoed across a corner of London. All the spotlight respect and the hearts of the people converged on the young princess, making her the absolute focal point of the monarchy. At the other corner of the balcony, Camilla was forced to stand close to the ancient stone wall, where the palace shadow partially obscured her face. The once powerful woman now stood isolated and lonely amidst the crowd's wild enthusiasm for her enemy. She had to clench her teeth tightly to keep her facial muscles from collapsing before hundreds of camera lenses zoomed in on her every expression. Camilla forced a strained, restrained smile, waving a trembling hand to the crowd, a crowd that did not even bother to look her way. It was a brutal mental punishment, a ruthless public exposure that stripped away every shred of the villain's honor before the entire world. As the balcony doors closed and the media spotlight shut off the final verdict, for Camilla was officially carried out within the stone walls of the inner court. There were no police appearances or noisy court trials, yet the punishment this scheming woman had to endure was more ruthless than any prison sentence. Camilla was stripped of all actual internal clan coordination power, no longer possessing the right to intervene in any activities, events, or decisions, large or small, of the family. She became a lonely, harmless shadow, completely isolated within her own quarters at the palace. All her former trusted servants were replaced, and not a single order of hers was permitted to be executed without approval from Kate's office. Camilla had to bow in submission to every arrangement made by the daughter-in-law she had once sought to destroy, living out her final days in the cold neglect and oblivion of the entire clan. Meanwhile, at the central office of the inner court, the atmosphere was entirely different. Prince William stood by the large window, looking out over the vast palace courtyard with a profound sense of relief. The grudge from that winter night at Sandringham 3 months ago had been completely washed clean. His wife's honor and devotion had been reclaimed through a glorious victory built from their own strategic intelligence, steadfastness, and deep mutual love. He turned back toward the oak desk, where Kate sat quietly under the lamp. In William's hand was the copy of the historic Sandringham Speech Manuscript, the only surviving document containing the noble message of duty and sacrifice. With absolute reverence, William personally placed this document inside a secure glass case, officially inducting it into the National Archives. From now on, the speech that Camilla had once thrown into the fire would become the immortal moral foundation of Kate's power, a testament to the fact that altruism and devotion to the nation always triumph over the vile, envious schemes of greedy individuals. Kate looked at her husband with deep affection, her fingers tightly gripping the top-secret access keycard tucked away in the pocket of her dress. She understood that the absolute respect the entire clan and millions of citizens were giving her now did not stem from a proud tiara or lavish titles, but was earned through a resilient journey to protect the survival of the royal family. The righteous side had won a resounding victory. The order of the inner court had been restored under the hands of the new female ruler. Yet a victory in the royal world is never a completely smooth ending. It always comes with a heavy price regarding family affection. As William walked over to take Kate's hand, the ringing of a telephone broke the room's silence. William picked up the receiver, the smile on his lips instantly freezing as he heard the panicked voice of his trusted bodyguard from the distant Sandringham estate. "Your Royal Highness, while clearing out Queen Camilla's old room, we just discovered a secret compartment hidden deep beneath the wooden floorboards. Inside is an iron box filled with secret audio cassette tapes of Princess Diana from before 1997. And one of the most important tapes was just taken by someone before we could reach it." William slowly lowered the phone, his gaze piercing into the dark corridor, realizing that a new threat had already begun to surface, and this war to protect the family had only just entered a darker chapter. Was Princess Diana's missing audio tape the final trump card that Camilla managed to liquidate before being isolated? Or is there actually another ghost within the inner court seeking to use it to dethrone Catherine? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.